Hi, and welcome to the Manifesting Your Mission video tutorial. First of all, thank you so much for participating in the Manifesting Your Mission Guidebook process. As many of you know, the origins of this are used through the New Hollywood, a 501c3 nonprofit that's been established in 2006, by the way, that's all about supporting socially conscious storytellers and change makers through goals and grants and mentorship. So with every donation that we receive, and also with 10% of proceeds from this guidebook itself, we encourage everyone to rise higher and shine brighter and give back through our programs, but also we are donating guidebooks and workshops to underprivileged youth, mainly foster and homeless youth, and we're going to continue expanding to help our community rise up and have more tools and support. And so it's a real win-win. You're not only helping yourself and up-leveling your life, and whatever you feel like you want to manifest and tweak and polish, but also helping other people who really, really need support and tools. So for that, I thank you. I just want to applaud you for just deciding to take this risk and jumping on board and trying this process out, committing to this process. So I'm going to give some tips and tricks, and I'll try and keep it brief, because I know we all have things to do and things to make happen. So what I recommend first is take the time to read it. Just go through, look at the different sections, read through it kind of cover to cover, so you just get the lay of the land. Also, when you're reading it, I know this may sound a touch condescending, but it's meant to be said in tongue-in-cheek, is that think of it as if you don't know anything about goal setting. Like, this is all brand new and you've never journaled and you've never done any of this stuff. The reason I say this is not because you're an idiot, but because, or uneducated. It's because a lot of times what we do is we think we know something, and so we will skim. And we will actually miss the things that are most important to us. I often find that when I skim over something or I kind of zone out while listening to an audiobook or something, it's usually exactly what I need to hear the most. So that's our little self-sabotage autopilot. So what I recommend is really reading it with intention and as if this is brand new, and also as if you're like studying for a test. When you're studying for an exam, there's a different level of focus than if you're reading a blog. So the reason I say this is because you may realize, that is the thing I need to look at. And our intuition, our small, still voice, the part of us that guides us, our downloads, our inspiration, it's quiet. It's still. It's not loud and aggressive. It's, sometimes we might have kismet moments where someone might say, you need to do blah, blah, blah. But often we dig our heels in because we want to be right and because change is hard. So the more you can read this from a place of openness and surrender, and if certain words or verbiage, like, I don't like that word, or I don't like it going, saying in that way, just stay open and pay attention to why. Because again, that's how we often self-sabotage ourselves. So again, I'm not saying that this is gospel. I'm not saying that the things that I reference are gospel, but I do know from personal experience that they work. And I can reference a million, maybe not a million, that's a lot to recommend, a million. I can reference a lot of people of different phases of their life and a lot of different career paths where that worked for them, and if they just needed to hear that tweak, or I could have one person really understand it from this person's perspective or verbiage, and not another, even though it's being said the exact same way. So just pay attention, because we don't want to negate things that are helping us with our highest good simply because of a judgment and or a limiting belief. So that's just kind of putting that out there. The other thing is I reference a lot of different tools that I love, that have worked for me, that I've seen work for other people. The reason I do this is, one, to give credit where credit is due, because I loathe when people are regurgitating quotes that I know someone else originated that, or that's, a tool or method that originated from this person, and, they're acting like they are a guru, and I'm like, I actually know your personal life, and you're not, acing everything. So, it's a huge pet peeve of mine in the, self-help kind of goal-setting world. So I reference a lot of different people, and also so we can hear things in stereo. Oftentimes, I may say, this really works, for me, and I've seen it work for other people, but I'll reference a couple other people or different tools so you can check it out for yourself. Because often when we're really working through something, we need to hear about it from a couple different people in a couple different ways. So I recommend really paying attention to that when you're setting your goals. Okay, so you read through it. You may even want to like asterisk things that are important to you, put little stars next to sections that are important to you, highlight if that's your jam. I also recommend that you give yourself permission to have fun colored pens or use stickers in the calendar habit tracker, or things like that to make it more fun, so that this doesn't feel like homework. It feels like your time to get to percolate on what is important to you and making sure that you're putting your priorities first versus your to-do list or shoulds or what other people want. So just pay attention to that. If the little artist in you, the little creative little you is like, you know what, I would like glittery, sparkly stickers, run with it. Go all out. So the whole thing about how to use this guidebook is really thorough. It's very comprehensive. Always feel free to go back to it if you're needing some help or some TLC while going through the process. I also include not all of the testimonials, but all of the guidebook testimonials in the back. And the reason for that is because sometimes we're like, this isn't working for me. And it's really a part of you that's resistant. So I put them in the back so that you can kind of look at it and be like, okay, let me just try again. Let me just continue going. And it won't look perfect. A lot of people like sprint out the gates and they're like, I'm going to do it, and I do it 110%, and then they collapse, and that's their way of doing it. Or we kind of do something and then kind of don't. So just kind of pay attention to what you do and how you commit in life, because I guarantee how you show up to this is often how you show up in other things in your life, and is worth examining if it's working or if it's not working, and why. So read the book, blah, blah, blah. And then I have this whole section called Tools. And the Tools section, it may seem like I don't need to write like what I love about myself, or I don't need to write this what inspires me. Just do it. Just do it. Because just by doing it, it energetically is like, oh yeah, that does inspire me. Oh yeah, that is what I love doing. Because sometimes when we're feeling down, or we're feeling like in the monotony of whatever we're dealing with, or like more goal setting, come July, because that's when most people are like, and they give up, when it starts to be a few months in, that you can go back to and be like, you know what, this is what will inspire me. Okay, this is what I need to look at. So really try and do all of it. I really recommend doing all of it. Take the time to set up a vision board day. Just do it. There's a part of you that like, let's set our goals for what we have control over, and then let's envision the bigger thing, because some things are not within our control. And it's important to know the difference of that, because that's a lot of the reason why people don't do goal setting, because they do things that are overwhelming or that are out of their control. And then they're like, see, it didn't work. It's like, well, yeah, you want to win an Emmy and you just got into an acting class for the first time. Yeah, you're not going to win an Emmy this year. Sorry, probably not. So people set unrealistic goals all the time. One of the things I really love, Tony Robbins talks about, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade, which leads me to a decade condensed. Which is when you use this guidebook and you go from year to year, which most people do. Once they're in it and they've done it and they're like, oh, I love it. Or they've tried other things in between, and then they come back because they realize this is way more comprehensive. And it's like a little life coach and your own little guru, because you know all the answers for your mission if you get still and if you listen and if you pay attention. Pay attention to kismet moments. Pay attention to intuition. Pay attention to your blessings, and don't get stuck in the rabbit hole, the wormhole of what's not working and the limiting beliefs and stories and our trauma. So these tools are really great. So the decade condensed, you can help you just know like, wow, how many things happen, or that goal that was really important to you last year, 2 years ago. Okay, it didn't happen that year, but happened 2 years later, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so we go into tools, and then we jump into deep dive for your mission. Now, one of the things I also recommend is like use little stickies, either whether it's post-it notes on pages, just so they're easier to reference. So you're like, okay, I want to make sure I have this page always ready to go. Just do that, it makes it simple. There's also little clips that you can put for sections when you're going through the calendar just to make it easier to flip to. Now, you don't have to keep this guidebook with you all the time. If you're that kind of person, great. If you're not, I recommend just having on your phone, on the notebook pad, just keeping notes of the monthly prompts, and then just going through it and putting it in at the end of the month, or keeping it by your bedside when you have the calendar, or in your office space so it's just spread out, and you can jot down things there. I'll get a little bit more into that once we get to the calendar pages. But deep dive will just help you access the right and left side of your brain and help you get really clear on what it is you want. And it does vary year to year, so I really recommend doing it every year. Don't just have it be I wanted to do that last year, because I swear to you, things evolve, you evolve, circumstances change. Obviously, right now there's a global pandemic as I am saying this. Who would have thought that in the beginning of March? People were paying attention to the news, but other than that, most people weren't expecting it to become what it was going to become for 2020. So go through all of the deep dive. A lot of it should be quick. Just write, what does your gut say? So it's not thought out like you would do an essay. It's actually more guttural. It will help you with accessing both your right and left side of your brain and your conscious and your subconscious. So just pay attention to that. And also it'll get you clear on what you really want versus what you should want. Because a lot of us have shoulds and should. It's your life. Okay, the Life School report card is going to reveal a lot. And what's going to really reveal a lot is the page right after. That page is legit. I recommend making that a major habit or goal for the year, whatever you really get from this page, because it will excavate the root of what it is that will help you. So a lot of times it's like we're going to a chiropractor, like something's out of whack, our hips are out of whack, our back is out of whack, and with a slight adjustment, things will align and everything will fall into place. That's what this and the Get Real and Rise Up questions will really get at. So pay attention to that. Make sure when you write, make it legible, because you're going to be rereading this stuff. And why do we do this? Because this is what you do when you're studying for tests and exams, and yet when we're studying and trying to make things happen in our life, we kind of just wing it. That doesn't really make sense, right? If we want to be intentional about things, we need to really be intentional about them. We need to be conscious about it instead of like hoping or half-assing it and being like, see, it didn't work. Well, yeah, of course it didn't work. If you want to have an exceptional life, you have to have exceptional habits. This will help you build those. Also, how you view things. Silver lining. A lot of times we think we want things and it should look a certain way, and then time goes by and we look back and we're like, oh, thank God, or thank whatever you're thinking, that didn't happen. So often it's like we need to look at obstacles as potential opportunities and as experiences to create growth, and that maybe some of them are part of our purpose. I'm not saying all, but some are, and a lot can be reframed so that they can be. So that gets into that, which is really a profound tool, and it's important to take the time to really look at that, because whatever you're dealing with right now in the future could be actually the beginnings of the catalyst to help you manifest what it is that you want, even though it's uncomfortable, because often growth is uncomfortable. Otherwise, we just lay on a beach and sip, cocktails and have the sun, beam on us all day, and at a certain point it might be monotonous. So growth often doesn't happen in that phase. Sometimes, but often not. Okay, so goals. I really break down like how to go through your goals, how to look at this again, how to like reframe it, how to figure out when to do what. This is a beautiful guideline, so it's all about setting the foundation so you can have fluidity within the rigidity. All right, so you're not so rigid that you're like, it has to look like this. I promise you that is not the way to do goals. So if that's how you do goals, I recommend trying it another way, because often when things are additive or fun or have a strong why, we'll actually follow through with them consistently. So go through all of that, and then you jump to the calendar pages. Now, you may say, well, I use my calendar on my phone, or I use a certain kind of calendar. Awesome. So do I. But what I do recommend with this is that when you are, and I explain how to use the calendar and the check-ins and all of that, we have a thing to figure out habits, so you can be really clear on what you're doing and why. We also have, so you can set up your goals and really work through those. You do not need to do as many as there are boxes. So overachievers, type A's, you do not need to fill all of them. We do have a little like thing where there's a percentage, so you can give yourself credit if you're like, okay, I didn't 100% do it, but I at least did a little. And so you're giving yourself credit and you're being kind to yourself instead of being a perfectionist and being hard on yourself, which I know some of you are because that's just the way a lot of us were raised, and it doesn't really serve us. And then there's also, for those that like math, you can add a little percentage. So you're like, oh wow, I did really good this month. Or if you're like, wow, I didn't do that great this month, and it might be like, okay, then you're overextending yourself. So how can you pull it back? How can you not sprint and collapse? How can you do it at a super attainable, easy, yummy pace? Think about that. Then throughout every quarter or every 3 months, there is a little asterisk that's right here that tells you to jump toward the end to another section, to whether it's either your seasonal check-in, whether it's your mid-year, which is after 2 seasons, which is your pivot and polish, or after you've completed all 4 seasons, all the pages in the calendar pages for your end of the year review. But let's jump to the calendar. So there's sections on here that we mentioned from the beginning of the book. Be consistent and put them in. Why? Because we're like solidifying it. We're like putting it in. We're cementing it into your brain. And also so you remember, oh yeah, that is my most important focus. That's my heart focus. But is that reflected in my calendar? Is it reflected with my time, energy, and my money? Am I putting it in my life? And if you're not, then is it really your heart focus? A lot of people say their family is the most important thing to them, but they're never spending time with them. Is it your heart focus then? Maybe not. How can you evaluate that, right? So it's just keeping you really like aware of what it is that you're doing, and so you're not getting sidetracked by everybody else's shoulds and other people's priorities. Then what I recommend is that you keep this book for the week kind of out. I recommend kind of just jotting in when you do what when it comes to your goals. Now this doesn't have to be your main calendar. It can be. But it doesn't have to be. But really what it is just to highlight, wow, like, okay, yeah, I did touch on that this week. And I recommend doing like Sundays, taking some time, looking through your calendar, jotting out what you want to do for the week. And it literally can take 10 minutes, not even. Jot it out, make sure it's in your iCalendar or whatever calendar you use. And then you can be kind of set. And then also if you have to adjust, you just adjust. And you're like, okay, I couldn't get to that. I had other things come and happen. But in the end of the day, if you're before the end of your night, you just want, what are you grateful for? It's really important to pay attention to what you're grateful for, because most of us just constantly focus on what isn't working and problems, and that's why we're stuck, and that's why we can't get out of it. Also, at the end of the week, when you get to Saturday, you look back at your plan and you're like, what worked that week? What didn't? Why? How do I get to polish? And that is going to help give you really big insights. You're like, wow, I overcommit. Wow, I got really bummed out. Oh, I whatever, was hormonal. Oh, my family was in town and I was really triggered. Like whatever those things are, and you're like, okay, well that was what that was. All right, let me just try and do better next time. Let me just try better the next week. And so this just kind of sets it for you. Again, there should just be real fluidity with it and a sense of play. All right, so you go and you do that, and then every season you jump to, let me just get all the way through. You jump to the end section, and you might want to put those little sticky tabs on these sections so it's just faster to get to than what I am doing right now. Okay. Okay, so it's called seasonal check-in. So it's a whole big section. And so at the end of each season, basically 3 months, every 3 months, you will come in here and you will answer the questions, and it'll tell you what pages to answer. Now, a lot of these are based on, at the end of each calendar, after the calendar sections, I place some prompts. I'm damn proud of myself, hurdles, lessons learned, kismet moments, additional thoughts that you might have about my blessings, thoughts that you have. It's really, really, really important to put these down, because this is what's going to really help you like pay attention. And again, I put these in my calendar on my not my calendar, my phone, under a notebook, and I put the little headers and I look at it, and then I put it in at the end of the month, because I usually have my phone on me all the time. I don't always have this on me, and I forget all the good things often. I forget the hurdles, and I notice they kind of are the same all the time. So just look at that. What lessons I learned, really important. Kismet moments, super, super, super important. The more you pay attention to them, the more they just happen, and you get insight. It's the best way to build up your intuition. So seasonal check-ins, you go over all of that again. You like study it again. You relive that all again. You're like, oh wow, I really learned that. Okay, I got that done. And it tells you where to write it down, so you can just pay attention. You'll want to write it all down here, because at the end of the year, this is what you're gonna like look over again and really like take ownership for, and you're gonna be freaking amazed. You're gonna be amazed about what you've manifested. So each season you go through that, and then also keep going after each season to other sections in this section, because there's writing down what your morning and evening routines are. Like, what are you playing with? What's working? Like, and I give some examples of things you can do. Also visualization for the things that are out of our control that we want to bring into our life. Like, what are you visualizing? How are you doing it? Is it working? Is it not? Is it annoying? Is it fun? Like, it'll just help you polish. Therapy. If you're any sort of therapy, couples therapy, personal therapy, I don't know, if you have something that you feel like is an aha, you want to date it and put it down here. And you're going to start to notice, like, what is the common denominator? What is the pattern? Because sometimes we have to just see it. Also, if you're, all the things that you're going to use and be inspired by, like the continued education, jot it down, because you forget. And then you look back at the year and you're like, oh my God, I read that book. I listened to that podcast about this. I did that masterclass. I listened to that TED Talk. Like, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's what I really loved. Or you might be like, I really liked it, but oh, now I'm re-inspired by that. Like, oh gosh, that's exactly what I need to go back to now. So this is going to be just a wonderful, a quick reference. Now, for those of you who are doing wellness goals, which a lot of people I found do, I put in like a measurements page and like an area where you can kind of write in some stats, whether it's blood work or whatever that section is. I only do it quarterly, and the reason is so you don't have like an obsessive adversary relationship with your body and with food. So just to kind of be like, oh, am I on track? Am I not on track? Is this working? Is this not working? Oh, wow, I've gotten, I noticed when I had a little less caffeine, I was less anxious, or whatever those things are. This will help you streamline it. And I go into a little bit more about that. Now, for those of you who are working on abundance, you realize like, gosh, I really have no abundance, or my abundance is not as well as I'd like it to be, or like, I want my business to thrive. Well, it's like, but is your personal life thriving financially? Because if it's not, how you do one thing is kind of how you do everything. So this will kind of keep you aware of the reality of your life, and then also and how you're spending your money. And you might say like, oh, this is so important to me, and you're like, wow, I'm really spending a lot of money on presents for other people or something, and you're like, that's really not a budget priority for me right now. Net worth. So you can look at what is your net worth and really see it. And then I put it quarterly as well, especially if people are building their net worth, so they can see like, okay, I am increasing, or and it's kind of a little bit more of a slower thing, but it's really eye-opening. There's a section for your birthday, so you can kind of just pay attention to that. I really recommend that. And then there's more of those life school report cards, so you can just see every season, how are you doing? And it's cool. It's cool to watch it ebb and flow and see what needs improving. Middle of the year, so after you've done 2 seasons, which is essentially 6 months, you go through again and you kind of just see what's working and what's not. And then also you redefine your goals, because things happen. There's a global pandemic. Your industry is no longer relevant. Your things have changed. It's like paper used to be like the industry, and now we live in a paperless world. Things evolve. How do we evolve with it? How do we use that as an opportunity to expand so we don't stay stuck? So, you can look at all of that. Then at the end of the year, you go through and you read all that we just did in the seasonal check, and not the entire guidebook, because that would be a lot of pages. But you look through it and you just soak it all up and you see like all that you learn, and you're gonna be blown away. And you end up seeing all the things you manifested, all the things that you manifested that weren't exactly what you thought you were going to manifest, but they came to anyway. Things that are still in progress, because not everything is going to happen like that. That's just not realistic, unless maybe you're a wizard. So if you're a wizard, I would love to talk to you and know how you do that. But for those of us that are not wizards, you know, this process really helps. And then also just helps you review, like, what did you do at the end of the year? And then you can go back the next year and add that in. So this is the process. It seems daunting, but it is not. Once you get in the flow of it, it's really, really fun. And it's some alone time to kind of get still and just be aware of, like, okay, what is most important to me right now, so that you're staying on path for what you want to create in your life and make happen. I'm really excited for you to be on this journey. If you want extra help, contact me through the website, MYM for Manifesting Your Mission, .briannabrownkeene.com. There's a contact info. I will be keeping people updated of upcoming workshops, as well as accountability coaching. I do them in very small groups. I don't do a lot because of all the other things that I'm doing. So, and I have the prices really discounted during COVID, because I just know that people are struggling and need help up-leveling from a crisis. So, you know, sign up if you're interested. Share if you feel inspired. And, you know, I'm really excited to do this journey with you. And please keep in contact by social media and let me know how it's going. And I wish you all the best. And that's it. All right. Bye.